Um, okay. Thanks everyone for joining today's training session. I'm here. So my name is Jojo. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kwame AI. I'm here with Victor Kumbo, my co-founder and CEO, and then Bonsra, who is our legal counsel. So the plan today is we'll start with Victor, who will do a walkthrough about various features of Esquire and how to make good use of it, each of the features. And then Bonsra would go through various use cases, how he uses it as a lawyer. So to give you a practical sense of how you can use Esquire for legal research, and then would have Q&A at the end. All right, so I'll hand over to Victor to take over.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
And if
So,
you have any questions as we're going through, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand and then I will ask you to unmute.
okay. All right. Thanks, George. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Victor, and I'll just do a quick run through. Sure. Well, I hope most of you have already used Esquire or tried it out by now, and you have a sense of what you can use it for. But this is just to give you some tips in terms of how to make the most out of Esquire based on what we've seen, some of the mistakes that users make, and then also, wait, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, sorry. And then also some of the new features that we recently launched, which have been available for, I guess, the past month. All right, so firstly, let me just quickly talk about some of the tips. So the first thing is that it's important to use the right feature on Esquire to get the most out of it. Right, so there's a couple of common use cases that we see, and sometimes users use the wrong feature. So an example is like if you want to find a case or legislation that you know, the best place to go on Esquire. So when you come on Esquire, this is how the homepage looks like. The best place to go is the library. So we have the library, and the library gives you access to all of the cases and legislation that we have curated. And also recently, documents from regulatory agencies. So if you know the case by title or the legislation by name, you can actually just type in here where we provide you with suggestions as you type, right? So this is the best place to go to if you're trying to find a case or legislation, say Courts Act. Yes, so this allows you to quickly find the case or legislation. So you know the name, this is where you go. We see sometimes users use Ask Kwame or Smart Search to try and type search for cases. You wouldn't find the case. That's not the best way to find the case. If you want a discussion on a particular case, or you want a discussion on a particular legislation, you can use Ask Kwame for that. So if you want to say, for instance, what is the scope of the Companies Act? Okay, let me say what are some changes in the new Companies Act? So this kind of query is what you would rather do on Ask Kwame because it will pull up the most relevant passages and synthesize an answer for you, right? But then if you wanted to read the Companies Act itself, you would go to the library and then you would search from there. So whilst it's loading, so that's the first thing. Yes, so this is a discussion on the question, right? So depending on what you're trying to do, you may use Ask Kwame or you may use the library. And then also, so like I said, if you want a discussion on the case or legislation, you use Ask Kwame. So if you want like an answer to this kind of question, Ask Kwame is what you use. You can't use the library for this. And we also introduced a new feature recently called Ask Case. So this allows you to ask a question on a particular legislation or case after you've opened it. So this is to allow you to dive in deeper after you have the case open. So let's say, for instance, are there any penalties and enforcement mechanisms in the Companies Act which I have open? You can so you can make that kind of query in Ask Legislation on the document, and you'd have an answer. Right now, I mean, load with another document, and you'd have an answer which speaks about that particular case and uses that to provide the answer to your query. Right, so that's the second sort of use case if you want to get discussion on a case or legislation. And if you want to find cases or legislation on a particular topic, the place to start off with depends on how much you know about the topic. So if you know, for instance, that it's a topic that is well discussed in, let's say, cases, you can use smart search to try and search for that. So for instance, if there's like a concept that you want to, let me go back to the home page to show this. Yes. Legal capacity issue. And like a concept like this, which is discussed a lot in cases, you can just search with smart search and it will pull up all cases, passages from cases across our database where this concept has been mentioned, right? And the good thing about smart search is it allows you to sort the results based on what you're looking for. So if by default, we sort it based on the relevance to your query, but you can also change it and sort by court authority so that Supreme Court cases are the highest, Court of Appeal, High Court, or you can also sort based on most recent. So you have the most recent decisions on top. But if you could also use Ask Kwame for something like this, and this is especially useful where it's a very general concept and you are not really sure how to start off, you can start off with Ask Kwame, and it kind of synthesizes the information across the topic for you to start going in. So, and especially also if you have like a very nuanced query. So I asked about capacity to sue, but maybe you could search for cases on capacity to sue involving prisoners or something like this. It's just something I made up, right? So you can, with Ask Kwame, you can provide more detail, you can make it more nuanced, and you would have a sort of synthesis of everything that is available on this. And based on this, you can dive in more deeply with either the related questions that Ask Kwame provides, or you can get some concepts that you can follow on with in Smart Search. So depending on how much you know starting off, and you may decide to either use Ask Kwame or Smart Search if you're trying to find cases on a particular concept, which is another use case that we find a lot. Right, so this gives a very good discussion. And from here, you have cases which deal with this issue. And based on this, you can now start reading and going much deeply. And you also get related questions which can help you sometimes reframe the queries to find what you're looking for. Right. And also finally, if you need to get like an explanation or a definition of a legal concept, you can use Ask Kwame as well. So Ask Kwame is also good for getting definitions and explanations. So you can ask for what is a valid question? So you get a definition which is grounded in the case law. Now, a couple of new features which we introduced in Eskwai 4.0, which I would like to highlight here. So we introduced the higher intelligence mode. So previously what we had was the standard intelligence. Now we have a higher intelligence mode, which uses more advanced reasoning models to provide greater accuracy. It takes a bit longer than the standard intelligence, but you get usually more detailed and accurate responses. We've also provided filters that you can use to either disable or enable different kinds of cases. So if you want to do a query on just and have only answers cases from the Supreme Court used, you can use the selector to select so that you limit the scope of the relevant cases that are used in providing the answer. Similarly, you can also select whether primary legislation or delegated legislation are included in providing the answer. So this gives you a bit more control. You also provide the opportunity to export the answer as a document. So now you can export the answer as a document, which you can open and continue working. So you can continue editing this document. It also has the references included at the bottom. So you can just quickly work and update these documents for your downstream workflows. And so these are two new features that we have. We've also introduced what we call the smart citator. So I would open one case to show you an example. So the smart citator allows you to track the how courts in later cases have treated the particular case that you are viewing, right? So whether they approved of it, whether they distinguished a principle from the case you are reading. So that is what you have in this panel called the smart citator. So we provide a count of different treatments that are there. So negative treatments are where the subsequent courts and subsequent decisions either frowned upon or disapproved of certain principles from this case. Positive is where it was used or applied or followed in later cases. We also have neutral and caution. So in this particular instance, we don't have any neutral treatment, but then neutral is where it's just cited without any value being ascribed to it, or caution is usually where it's distinguished. So it's not an absolute negative treatment. It's just that you should be cautious when you're citing that case. So when you click on the show details, it opens up this panel where you have information on what was done. So in this case, Yalvani was overruled in this later case in 22, and it was disapproved of in this case in 2020. So you can also see when you flip to the positive side instances. So in this Monica versus data link case, it was applied, and in this other case, it was also applied. So this allows you to quickly have a sense of how good law Felix versus Maersk is currently, right? So this is a feature that you can use to check how good the case is. And we also provide the passages from the case that is cited it. And we also give you a reasoning as to why our AI has assigned it this judicial treatment. We'll soon make it possible to just click directly and open the citing case. But as I know, you just get this list, which at least lets you know how this case has been treated in subsequent cases. And similarly, we also provide an amendment indicator on legislation. So just quickly, right? So we have this amendment indicator here. It's closed by default. When you open it, it shows you if this case has been amended or is still in full standing, or it has been repealed. So in this case, the Bank of Ghana, as we know, has been amended, and you can click directly to open the legislation that amends it. So we have this for about 50% of our legislation. Will be completing it soon. And as I know, we don't provide consolidated legislation, but we're working on that, which will soon be available. So you can actually read the consolidated Bank of Ghana Act with all of the amendments applied. Right. So this is also another feature that we released in Eskwai 4.0. And whilst I'm here, let me also just use this to demonstrate the ask legislation feature. So like I said, you can ask a question that is just focused on this particular legislation that you have open in this right panel. When you ask that question, you get an answer. All of the references cited in this answer are from this particular legislation. And so you see the inline citations that you click will all be to specific sections in this legislation. The same way, you can also ask questions on the particular case that you have opened. So, for instance, what are the legal issues the court is addressing? You can make such a query about just this case, and you'd have the answer provided in this panel. So this is similar to Ask Kwame, but the difference is that it's just focusing on the particular document that you have open at the time. So this allows you to dive more deeply into the particular case or legislation that you're working on. And so finally, before I let Ansha talk about some practical use cases, just two more things. In terms of using Ask Kwame, you get the most if you make your query as specific as possible. So we notice sometimes users would put in a query like NQ versus NTHC or human trafficking, right? But you would get better answers if you were more specific. So if you framed it as, let's say, the summary of NQ versus NTHC, or what was the holding of NQ versus NTHC, or something like that, or discuss NQ versus NTHC based on something, right? But just putting in this phrase alone, it will give you a response, but it's probably not going to be what you're looking for, right? So as much as possible, your query should be specific. Similarly for human trafficking, if you want a better query would be something like, what is the law on human trafficking? Or maybe, or cases on human trafficking, something like that, right? The more specific you are in your query, the better the response you get. And then secondly, it's also more helpful if you frame your query as a request or a question. So for instance, you could say cases on judgment in default of defense, right? But if you made it more specific and also framed it as a request, as give me cases on judgment in default of defense, you would have much better answers, right? And similarly, you could just put in holding of Deutsche versus the state. But if you frame it as a query or a question, so as what was the holding or what is the holding, you get better answers. So basically, try to frame your query either as a request, like give me, discuss, provide, or frame it as a question. So like what was or what is, explain, that kind of thing. You get better answers that way than just putting in phrases, right? So that is it in a nutshell. I would hand over now to Bonstra to talk about. Oh, sorry, I'm now seeing the message. That my voice was a bit off. Sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I just saw Bonstra's message that my voice was a bit off. Right, so yeah, in summary, these are the tips that we have. I'll just hand over to Bonstra now to do a demo on practical use cases. George Bonstra says he can't unmute himself.
Okay, right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone. My presentation will be very short, but before I delve into the practical use cases, so I mean, as lawyers, we know the challenges that come with traditional legal research methods. Sometimes, in order to find a particular case, you need to comb through your entire law library or the books, the physical Supreme Court of Ghana law reports, and it can be very tedious and very time consuming. And sometimes, even if you are lucky enough to find the case you are looking for, you are not 100% sure whether that case is still good law, whether it has been modified or overruled. And I've seen instances where lawyers will get up on their feet in court and argue a particular point of law without knowing that the Supreme Court had overruled that case like 2 weeks or a month ago. So it becomes very difficult using the traditional legal research methods. Sometimes you have a statute and you don't know whether that statute is still in force or whether the statute has been repealed, because when Parliament passes a new statute repealing all the others, nobody comes to tell you, nobody comes to give you any notice. And you can't go on the Assembly Press website or Parliament website to see that these are the list of statutes that have been repealed. So it becomes very difficult tracking the current position of the law in a lot of instances. So that's why tools like Eskwai become extremely necessary. So as Victor mentioned, there are all these features on Esquire that we believe makes it better than the competition, the AI integration especially. So some other legal tech tools out there would give you all the cases or the statutes you're looking for, but you cannot interact intuitively with a tool to find specifically what you're looking for, or you might necessarily find the case, but you wouldn't know whether that case is still good law and things like that. And sometimes too, it becomes a challenge because you know the legal principle, you know that there is a case for it, but you don't know the case. So there are some tech tools out there that will give you just the cases, but if you don't even know what you are searching for or what case you are looking for, it becomes difficult to utilize those tools. So we factored all of those pain points from a lawyer's or a legal researcher's perspective into the development of Esquire. So I'm going to do a practical demonstration, but I'll look at it from the point of view of the different categories of legal researchers that you can have. I mean, you can be a legal researcher from a student side where you need a case to answer a question, a take-home assignment that you've been given, or to even analyze an essay problem, depending on what you are looking for and things like that. I would also look at it from a practitioner's point of view, from a lawyer's point of view, and with that, I'll look at it from both a litigation lawyer's point of view and from a transactional lawyer's point of view. In all these instances, I'll use just one example because we have very limited time, but I'll also open, I want it to be very, very practical and realistic. So if you have any questions on any of the features that you want us to test, please note it down. And when I'm done with mine, I would open the floor. So if you have any question, we'll type it in and then we'll see how Esquire behaves. I think that would make it much more relatable. Okay. So let me share my screen. Just a minute. Can you see my screen, please?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So if you are a litigation lawyer, for example, and you are on your feet in court, you are stranded and you are making a particular point, maybe because the other side raised an objection and you want to counter, and you are just there. You know the principle you want to rely on, because sometimes after 6, 7 years of legal studies and years of practice, you would know for a fact that, okay, I've seen this legal principle somewhere, or I'm very sure it exists, or I've read a case like this. I just can't remember the name of the case. Um, so what do? You just, again, you need to know the features of Esquire and how to better leverage each of them. So ask Kwame here, like Victor said, is sort of when you want to interact with Esquire like a ChatGPT style, ask general questions and get answers tailored towards Ghanaian lawyers. You use Ask Kwame. But Smart Search is where you go if you know the principle you're looking for, but you would want authorities to support that principle. So you use Smart Search. So for the lawyer in the instance I'm talking about, Smart Search will be, and all the examples I'll use will be real life examples that have happened. Either I've had calls in the way I use Esquire to have that experience, or some lawyers I know used Esquire and it helped them out in that sense. So this one, a lawyer actually reached out to me that it really helped him on this, because he was on his feet and wanted to raise an objection whether rape can be tried summarily or whether it was by indictment. And he knew there was a case he had read in law school. At the time, that wasn't relevant to him, but in the next 5-10 minutes, he needed to remember that case, and he just came to Smart Search. So I think it was the principle he was looking for was that rape can be tried summarily, not necessarily always on indictment. So this is the principle he was looking for. He just typed it in, and I'm sure, yeah, there's only one case that will come to mind if you're looking at whether rape should be tried summarily or by indictment, and that's Richard Banusi. So as soon as he got it, it's like, yeah, that's the case I'm struggling to remember. And that was it. And just that 1 minute interval, he had a very good point. And like Victor said, when we rate the cases that Esquire would output to support the principles, and it is automatically rated based on how relevant the case is to the principle you are looking for. So this was 100% relevant. But of course, sometimes when you're a junior lawyer, your boss in the office will tell you, hey, find me Supreme Court cases on this principle. So once you key in your principle, you can come here and sort it out by court authority. And when you do that, the Supreme Court decisions would automatically come first. It will be rated basically in order of the authority of the Supreme Court. Sometimes to your senior will tell you, I want very recent decisions on this principle. So you can sort it by the most recent, and you get a 2023 High Court decision on this point. But again, if you are looking for recency, then this is how it's going to be. So we've factored in all those pain points that lawyers have to customize the user interface for Esquire. Still under the research aspect, Ask Kwame is where you want to, like I said, have a ChatGPT style interaction. So again, this is something that a friend of mine reached out. It's a question the friend asked me for my opinion. I just copied and pasted the answer into Esquire, and then I took a screenshot of the answer to her, and it's exactly what she was looking for. She kind of had an idea, and I mean, sometimes as lawyers, as law students, you kind of have an idea how you want to answer this question, but when you use Esquire, and Esquire's answers will give you every statement Esquire makes, especially under the Ask Kwame feature, will be supported by the authority. So you can basically, speak with authority on that principle. So I think the question the friend asked was this. I'm going to copy and paste it from my WhatsApp with the person, and let me come back here. Okay, it says, so she said, I'm preparing a share transfer agreement. The fact is that the current shareholder, who was a sole shareholder, has had a particular general manager who has served him for over 10 years, wants to reward him with some shares. So my friend, the lawyer, is the one preparing the share transfer agreement. And then she's asking who are the ideal parties to the share transfer agreement, because there had been a debate in their office that the company whose shares you are gifting out basically must also be a party to it. So she texted me, and then I just copied and pasted her answer, and let's see the answer. That I also kind of had an idea, but I liked the answer I got from Eskwai much better than, yes. So Eskwai says, based on the established practice and evidence, a share transfer is normally a contract between the existing shareholder transferor and the person acquiring the shares and all of those things. So basically it comes down and says that's for your share transfer agreement, the ideal parties are the current sole shareholder, the transferor, and then the general manager. So the company is not necessarily a party, but must be involved later in updating its registers and complying with any statutory requirements regarding share transfers. So if you need your board resolutions, approving it and things like that, some companies will also tell you to offer it to the other shareholders first on a priority basis before, but in this case, it's a sole shareholder. So I mean, so all of those things is factored in, and Eskwai gives you the answers. And the good thing is, like I said, Eskwai would always reference if it's relying on a particular authority to give you the answer. So you have a particular case here that the details that the company does not necessarily need to be a party to it. So this is one instance, and this is somebody who is, let's say, a transactional lawyer who is using Eskwai. But even in terms of the library, for example, sometimes, I mean, I know there are some lawyers who have no business going to court because they are strictly transactional. So let's say you are doing, you're advising an oil company on an energy matter. They've come to you for advice. And again, this is a personal instance that I've had to do this research before. So you go to legislation, and Eskwai will always tell you how many legislations it has in its database. In this case, it's 1,386. How many cases? It has 12,627. So at any point when you log in and we've updated our cases and our legislation, you see it right there. The number would increase. So let's say you're looking for the petroleum exploration. Yeah, okay. Petroleum Exploration and Production Act. And again, this is research I had to do. So you can easily go into the act and read it for yourself. Another good thing, another pain point lawyers might have, you can easily see the amendment information and things of that nature. But what I like is ask legislation. So you don't need to scroll through the bulk legislation. And some legislations have over 100, 200 sections. So you can just ask Kwame about this legislation. So you come here and then you ask whatever question you want to use the legislation to solve. Okay, so the research I was doing was on oil companies submitting a plan of development. So what is the position of this act on the requirement for having a plan of development? So I haven't even gone through the act. I've just opened the act and I'm just using the AI feature to go straight to my point, so I don't waste time doing the legal research. My senior says he needed it yesterday. So he says the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act mandates that a contractor must submit a plan of development and operation to the minister for approval. And all these references are certain specific sections in the act that relate to plan of development. So it also go ahead and says the plan must include a comprehensive description of the development and production program covering economic, technical, operational. The minister sets a deadline for the submission. The plan must include an environmental report approved by the appropriate institutions. All these things are there. So the research that my boss needs immediately, I can just do this and I can just copy you can use the copy feature here, and you just put it in a Microsoft Word document, add a few touches. Those of us in certain firms where you need to do a memo from junior associate to senior partner, topic is this and all that. In about an hour, you have a very, very good, solid research to present. Your senior will see you as somebody who is very, very responsive, but of course, you're having help, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Under the library too, if you are a litigation lawyer and you need to use the library feature for a case, for example, okay, you need to use the library feature for a case. So let's see what case do we use? Okay, let me use this. Mensa versus Mensa. And this one can be if you are a lecturer, you are doing legal research, you are writing a paper on spousal properties and things like that. You want to dissect certain specific cases. Of course, you can't write a paper on spousal distribution without looking at Mensa and Mensa. So we open Gladys Mensa versus Stephen Mensa, 2012 Supreme Court. You open it, and you, without even having to read, you can simply ask Eskwai the question using the AI feature here. So ask Kwame about this case. You just copy and paste it in there, or you just type it in there. What was the Supreme Court's position on distribution of spousal properties in this case? So you just click it in, and all the answers are very, they are very strict parameters. So the risk of hallucination is very small, because in this case, the answer is going to be from this specific case that you are reading. And of course, there are also reference points here that you can click on to see exactly which paragraph of this case Esquire is telling you that the Supreme Court's position on distribution of spousal properties here emphasizes the principle of equality and equity. And the Supreme Court, applying the principle of equality, recognized that substantial distribution applied to the jurisprudence of equality principle and all of these ones. And you didn't even have to read the entire case to get this nuanced summary of that principle. So it really helps. Another thing I really like about Esquire is that in the library section, like Victor mentioned, the smart citator is very, very good. So here, when you look at Mensa and Mensa, the smart citator is saying that there are green or positive treatments for this case. Basically, there have been 15 other cases where the court have positively cited Mensa and applied it. But it's also saying that there's a caution here where the court distinguished their instant case. And when you click on the details, it will tell you that in Gideon Ayuku Akrofi versus Nketia Champon, the Court of Appeal distinguished their case from the Mensa and Mensa case. You can click it for further review. And basically, the reasoning for the Court of Appeal distinguishing is that although Gladys Mensa and Stephen Mensa is a leading case on equitable distribution in divorce, the court cautioned that its principles are specific to matrimonial property. And I think in Akrofi versus a Champion, the Court of Appeal was dealing with issues of concubinage. So it was something that the court mentioned, but they had to do a proper distinguishing instead. So I mean, as a lecturer, when you are using it from the academic point of view, you easily find the use cases. Sometimes when you are preparing your lecture notes and you need to give a brief summary to students, you can just type the case in here, get the AI generated summary, the facts and everything. You easily put it in your PowerPoint presentation or in your outline, and you are good to go. Of course, if you're a lecturer, you already know what the case is about and things like that. But for convenience, using a tool like this becomes very simple. From the practitioner's side of things, whether you're a litigation lawyer or whether you're a transactional lawyer, you can find so many use cases for Esquire. Again, whether you want to use the smart search, whether you want to just interact using the Ask Kwame, or whether you want to go into the library and delve deeper into a particular statute or a particular case. And of course, all the various improvements, the smart citator, the amendment information, the ask a case, ask a statute, all of those are very, very, very important. Okay, I think I'll pause here, and if you have any personal query, whether at the research, if you need the interaction feature on Ask Kwame, or whether there's a particular principle you want to see if you can get a legal authority to support, or you want to delve into the library and all that, just, I think you can raise your hand. I don't know if Jojo, if you can do that within the time we have, you can raise your
Yes, yes,
hand. We
we
can,
can do that.
yeah,
Yes.
just let us know, and we can easily put that in. And then live, we'll see the feedback that we get from Ask Kwame. I don't know if anybody has a principle or a legal problem that we can address. If you want to test the tool and you want to give us any query to put in, I don't know if anybody, I think people can raise their hands, right?
Yes, they can raise your hand. Yes.
Yeah, so I think you can just raise your hand and we'll unmute you and do that. Because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the whole thing. So Jojo, please. Okay, I think I can do it. Yes. Anyone? Okay, I think it's fine. Jojo, over to you. I think we'll take questions, Q&A.
Okay.
Any
Yeah.
questions? I think Jojo might also want to mention the price point and the subscription, because I mean that's also a very important thing for potential users. So, all right. So
Okay.
I'll unshare my screen for now, but from now till the end of the webinar, if you have any way you want to test, I see a question in the chat. Oh, Michelle says he can't raise his hand.
Oh. Okay.
Can you unmute him so he just?
Yes. Okay. I guess yeah, I've asked you to unmute. You can put something in the chat if you want to speak.
Can you
Yeah,
hear
you
me,
can put
guys?
something. Yes,
Yes.
Michelle, we can hear you.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I enjoyed all the presentations, but if I missed some parts or the question has already been addressed, just let me know. Frederick, can we put defamation in Ask Kwame or the smart search? I don't know where
Okay.
you'd
What is
advise.
the goal? What are you looking for?
I want to see the first of all the filtering options.
Okay.
To what extent does it go to in terms of results? Because there are some keywords or principles that would be very, very repetitive, would have so much in all your cases because they go to the court a lot. So
Okay.
if you have a lot, like a word that appears a lot in cases, how does how does the interface deal with it?
Okay. Okay.
Maybe
So here you're looking for just one word.
let,
Yeah.
let me,
Okay.
as you're doing that, let me just jump in here. So, um, okay, so we don't really, I mean, we do what we call hybrid search. So there's a bit of keyword search, but to be able to address what you're trying to do, like let's start with the goal that like the I guess the research goal that you're trying to accomplish. Because that would inform because I think you're trying to see whether I can filter in certain ways, but we don't really do that specifically with Eskwai. So that's why the goal you're trying to accomplish is quite important.
Okay, so does it mean that you have to put in a specific question or a query just to get results?
Not necessarily. Okay,
But
maybe Bonsa, maybe you can go ahead.
okay.
Okay.
So I think when you put in just one word, you would get results. I mean, all these are, I don't know whether there are cases that specifically just mention defamation, or there are cases where the subject matter is actually about defamation. But
Yes. Yeah.
we usually recommend that you put in a specific query. So it's always about what exactly are you looking for. So for example, let's see principles on establishing defamation. Okay, so once you put this in, then you know that you are going to get a more nuanced sort of results on those particular principles, because if it's just keyword search, and in the case the judge just mentioned defamation as an example of the thought, I mean, it can it can come up as a hate, but it will be totally irrelevant. So we usually require that you key in the specific principle you are looking for, or your end goal, in the search, especially if you are using the smart search option. Let me try and use the Ask Kwame and just mention defamation, and I'm sure that one might be a bit broad, but let's see the results we get. So because that Ask Kwame is meant to be the interactive feature, I'm sure, let me see the results that will come. Yeah, so basically this is what will come up, and I'm sure the tool will just try and talk about, do a mini lecture on defamation, because here is giving you the definition, the elements, the various forms, and the proof requirements, the defenses, the legislative context, and all of those things you get, because it's broad. But of course, you can even under the Ask Kwame, you can zero in on something specific that you need, and definition and elements of defamation, and then you are basically giving Eskwai a very specific job, and it does that very, very well when you do that. Of course, in using general AI tools, one of the most important things you need to know is the prompt engineering, how to ask the questions in order to get exactly what you're looking for. So I totally get you, but
yeah.
yeah,
I'm just trying to. Thanks, Bonsai and
yeah,
Jojo.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm only trying to play a very devil's advocate
No,
here
no,
because
no, I get you. I get you.
how some people interact with these tools because people will not have any education on prompting, so they'll just put in a keyword and expect it to do magic. So, and I think Bonsai, you mentioned a very good point at the beginning that it depends on how defamation has been used, whether it's just a comment or anything. So, I'm just raising something that maybe you guys can pick up in terms of some of these
Sure.
words. Yeah. And the next, I have just a second question. I'm done. The second question was to
Okay.
know the the knowledge cutoff point of Kwame AI or Esquire, where maybe you guys have pointed it out already, but where is the database up to in terms of what year it ends in all the cases from Supreme Court?
Okay, like for the cases, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Victor, do you want to take this?
Um, yeah, I can answer that. So yeah, so we have cases from this year actually. So from the first quarter of this year. We keep updating the cases, and so yeah. So I guess the short answer is for cases this year. Victor, I don't know what you want to add to that. So it's based on the cases that we upload on Esquire.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to even know the data as far back, not the most recent one. Like where does it start from?
Okay, Victor.
It's pre-independence. So, I mean, they are like from the 1800s, I think, like divisional colonial cases. So it's like way, way back. And there have been a couple of cases from the, how do you call them? The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. So I guess it's like 1800s, 1900s, thereabouts.
Okay, thanks, Victor. Yeah, just a curiosity here to know, like, if from like the Gold Coast era or whenever before 1957, are you able to filter through? Because I haven't seen much of the filtering. So are you able to filter through? But I think Jojo had already mentioned it's not really a filtering because sometimes people always want to know the sources of some of the results that come. Because I can see the Supreme Court and the others in my face, but I don't know if another resource is before 1957, how I'm going to see that in terms of the research I'm doing. But if there is to show, fine. But if there isn't, no problem.
I mean, you can always see, so, but I can hover over one of the numbers. You always see the date and I think the year. It's always,
Yeah.
okay, no. Scroll to the bottom where we have the cards.
Yeah.
Yes, the dates are there, so you can already see the dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all the references for every statement that Eskwai, for every answer Eskwai gives you, it will give you the references. So when you hover your cursor on it, it will actually show it to you. But you can also scroll down, and at the end of every query, all the references are listed there. And you can see this is a 2016 High Court, 2023 District Court, Court of Appeal, and all of those things. 2022 Supreme Court, all of those ones are there. So you can easily tell the authority or the source for Esquire saying something. Typically, the pre-colonial ones don't show here, especially when you use the Ask Kwame feature, because, I mean, if there is a more recent authority, why would you refer to the pre-colonial one, unless there is none in the 50, 60 years since independence, and that's the one you're going for. So that one is there. But I think in the library section, if there is a specific pre-colonial case you are looking for, colonial case you're looking for, and you search in the library section, it typically comes out. I don't know if I can
You
do
can also filter by
filtering.
the
Yeah,
dates.
I'm trying to
If you
see the
want.
filtering. If I can go, okay, let me do something like this. Okay, I should be going up rather. Okay. So let me do 1934 January to let's see. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
can see
it's
the
applied.
cases on
So you
the
yeah.
left.
Okay, all right. So it's showing me cases from 1956, going 57, 51. Yeah, so once you filter, if you are looking for all those 1949 cases, all of them are there. That one, I think those cases, I don't know if now like there's a practical use for them for practitioners, because I mean, why would you rely on a pre-colonial case? But I think for academic purposes, for legal writers and all of those things, those become still very relevant, because sometimes you want to do literature review and trace the development of that particular principle across the courts and things like that. So that becomes, but yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. There was also a question in the chat. Can we try principles on abandonment for land matters? So again, I'm guessing if okay, sure. Sheffy. I think Sheffy has raised her hand.
I'm gonna unmute you in a bit.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. You can go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. You see, initially you typed defamation and then you
Yeah.
went on to type principles of defamation.
Yeah.
Does that fall under the Ask Kwame queries or unlimited smart search? Because that will add on to the quota that you have with the subscription.
Okay, so usually, before you use any of the features, we usually want users to know what the end result they are hoping for. So, like I was saying to Michelle, if you just want Esquire to talk about defamation from every angle, just so you see everything before you zero in, then the Ask Kwame will be your best bet. You get it. But that means that your Ask Kwame limits will be your number of queries will be used as the more questions you use the Ask Kwame feature for. But sometimes too, if you are looking for just cases and authorities on defamation, then you use the smart search feature. I don't know if that makes sense, because smart search feature would give you all of those things. And when you are using the smart search feature, that's where we usually advise that you put in a principle, not just one particular word, but put in the entire principle you are looking for. So if it's elements for the thought of defamation, put that in there, because that would help the tool give you more accurate, more relevant results than if you just put defamation. Once you put defamation, you haven't given smart search any context for it to search smartly for you. So put it in the form of a principle, because that's what the smart search is for. Finding legal authorities to support a particular principle. So usually, sometimes when I'm starting something afresh, and let's say it's just defamation and I want to start with it, I'll put defamation in the Ask Kwame and let Ask Kwame do all the breakdowns for me. So the forms, the elements, the definitions, and all that. Now, if I want to zero in, then I'll pick one of them, the forms or elements, and then I'll come and put that in the smart search, because I want all the principles on legal authority on the elements for defamation. I hope you get it.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
How
All right.
comprehensive is the search? So if we're still dealing with defamation and I want to know the principles, let's say, for example, I have a matter on defamation. Is it going to give me that you need to prove A, B, and C? You either go by writ, originating motion, petition. Is it going to show all of those things? And these are the cases that you can rely on?
Okay, so it's all about how you do your prompt engineering. You get it. So you can start and just ask it about defamation, and it will open up like we did earlier. I told you, open up and touch on them briefly, forms and elements. It won't zero in, it won't go deeper. Okay. But let me try this and see. I want to sue someone for defamation. How do I
Sandra, can we
go?
try her query, something related to her query about the abandonment, maybe?
Yeah, no, we'll try that, but I think
Okay,
because
okay.
yeah, we'll try that, but this was so let me see, and I just want to see if Eskwai would also give the procedural aspect of it, not just the substantive things you need to prove. But if you want the procedural too and you don't get it in your first time, you can also put that in. So okay, I like the point one, consult a lawyer. We need to be paid. Gather and preserve evidence, draft your pleadings. Okay. Means identifying which statements. So under the High Court rules, they are required to provide detailed particulars of the facts which, okay, file the suit in the appropriate court and all of that. So all these are like general. So this advice is like how you'd advise somebody who asks you this question in church and you want to break it down as a lay person for them. You get it. But let me see. Okay, let me try this. What are the procedural steps to filing a suit on defamation? Let's see if this would be a bit more nuanced. Mohammed, I see you. We'll let you unmute yourself very soon. Okay, so Sheffield, now you have it telling you that you need to commence your proceedings by writ, and you need a pleadings and a statement of claim and all of those things. You get it. So it depends on what you are looking for. And again, for prompt engineering purposes, when you ask it from one angle and you don't get what you're looking for, ask it in a different, more specific angle. And then I think you would always get very, very good feedback. We can also put in your earlier query in the chat. Okay, I always
Yeah.
get this.
As you're doing that, maybe I can add. So yeah, the biggest mistake we see people make is the quality of the question.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a bit of a change of mindset because I think with reference to the previous tools, legal tools that you lawyers use is like you love keywords, right? So you're not used to being very specific when you use some of these tools. But with Esquire, the more specific you are, the better the answer that you get. So if there's something specific that you want, put that in the query and give it it'll give you a great answer on that. So you should always try to be as specific as possible.
Okay. So what are the principles on abandonment in respect of land matters? Okay. I'm putting this in Ask Kwame first, but I'll put it later into Smart Search too for us to see if we can get legal authorities for that. But I want to see if Smart Search, if Ask Kwame understands, can at least give me a summary of the principles on abandonment first before I put it in there. Okay, so it's looking at abandonment as non-exercise of control. So the principle is that land is not necessarily abandoned simply because it is not in active use. Instead, abandonment involves a failure to actively assert a right to immediate control and all of those. There's also the necessity of intention, and then there's physical abandonment, especially in customary law emphasis. Then vacating the land and ceasing to exercise rights for an unreasonably long period, and all of these things. So after everything, the reference is there for the cases are there for you to go and read for yourself. So you can try it this way and you can get a very concise summary of the principles along with relevant cases. But if you just want the cases, you go to the Smart Search and then you put in here, yeah, I want principles on abandonment in respect of land matters. And then here, all you get are principles. So it's starting with district court, but 100% relevance. You can sort by court authority. And then the Supreme Court ones will come first. So all of these are cases on abandonment. Sometimes you also need to check the relevant scores. So 95% relevance and things like that. So that's basically how it works. Yes, Mohammed. I think, George, can you unmute Mohammed to ask his question?
Okay, I'll do that. Shafi, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, great. Mohammed, you can go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, so thank you. I came in late, but I wanted to find out, is it possible that you could either maybe through the Ask Kwame or through the Smart Search, like find a case by using the judge's name without maybe knowing the case name or knowing which court it was delivered?
You can. We haven't specifically designed it to work great on that yet. But you can. It can pull it up if the judge has been referenced in some case. But we can try something right now. We've just not specifically engineered it to work great for that use case, but it could work. If the judge has been specifically mentioned in some case. But yeah, we can try a query right now and see. I'm also curious to see.
Do you have a particular judge's name in mind, Mohammed? A particular judge whose judgment you want to see on a particular point?
Okay, let's say maybe since I mean you said it's up to date, maybe let's say like did you say the newly maybe Court of Appeal appointed judge? Did you say maybe something like that?
Who do say?
Yeah.
What are you trying to?
So you want his decision on what point?
Maybe I thought he recently delivered a decision on contempt, so maybe let's try that and see.
How
Okay,
recent?
let me see. I think there's some feedback on your end.
I think it's from Mohammed's end.
Oh, Mohammed, okay. So Justice Pokwe said decision on contempt. I know this is like a last month decision. I don't know if we have uploaded the case into Eskwai yet, but let me see what Askwami will give me.
Yeah, if it's last month, it's probably not in there yet.
Yeah, it's a very, very recent decision. and it's actually a high court decision to back in Kumasi. So I don't know if it's in there yet. Yeah, I don't think we got this. So it's not in the system. Court of appeal address, the contempt.
Yeah. So yeah. I guess so like like I said, yeah, we haven't engineered it to specifically pull up based on charges. But if that's an important use case, it's something that we can work on.
Yeah, thank you. That's good.
Okay, great. I think there's a question in the chat. Does Eskwai do drafting as well? Can you put in parameters and ask it to say draft a will, trust, or motion? So currently, with Ask Kwame, it can do basic drafting, but we are actually working on a separate drafting feature, which should be out hopefully next month. But for high level things, you can use Ask Kwame currently for that. But we're building a separate feature for you to be able to do drafting, refine, improve, and do a lot more complex things with reference to drafting. But for now, you can use Ask Kwame for initial drafts. If there's something you want us to try, we can do that and see. I hope that answers your question, Fanny. I don't know if you wanna say anything, but you can unmute yourself if you wanna speak.
I think whilst we wait for that, we can go on to the pricing so we round up because we are past our time.
Okay, yeah. So I'll quickly talk about pricing. Maybe I should share my screen. Yeah, so we have okay, so yeah, so we have three plans. For students, standard and then pro. So the standard is 100 per month, and then pro is 300 per month paid annually. And then for students 50 per month. Standard has most of the features, but it doesn't have some of the advanced features like downloading, case legislation, amendment indicator, smart cities, and higher intelligence. But Pro has all of that. So these are the three prices that we have for Esquire. And there's a 1 week free trial, so you can sign up if you don't already have an account and try it out, and then decide whether or not it's worth it to subscribe. Wait, was I sharing my screen? Yes, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, great. um, okay, I'll stop sharing now. Maybe one last. We're a bit over time, so if there's any last question or comment, if not,
I think if you want to share the firm plan options too, because I see some people here, they own law firms, so I see some law firm managing partners here.
okay, great. Yes, good
Yeah.
point. So we also have plans for firms. So we have the basic plan, the plus, and the premium. The basic plan is targeted for firms that have 5 or less lawyers, and then plus, if you have more
Sorry,
than
Jojo, not to cut you. Firms and legal departments.
yes, firms and legal departments. Yes, exactly. So more than 5 lawyers and more query usage. So the great thing about the firm plan is you have unlimited users for the account. So the only thing that is we cap is the number of Ask Kwame queries. And so you have a separate account for every person in the firm. And with that, you can have some collaboration also within the firm. So these are the prices for the firm plan. And if you're interested, you can reach out to us and then we can schedule a demo and we'll walk you the next steps. All right. Great. Okay. Are there any final comments or questions? If not, I think we can end here. Thanks everyone for joining. we're gonna we recorded it, so we're gonna post a recording, put a recording on YouTube, and then share it. So for those that maybe joined late, you can catch up on the first part of it. And if you have friends who would be interested in going through, you can also share the link with them. All right, thanks everyone for
You
joining.
can also always reach out to us on LinkedIn. If you want us to come and do, like Jojo said, a demo to your partners in your firm and things like that, we can always do that. If you want us to fine-tune something specifically for you and your legal research, you can always reach out and we'll be open to accommodating. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, there's a quick question in the chat. Does it help fine-tune cross-examination questions? Yes. You can use the Ask One feature to like have a back and forth. Yes. So I guess that's the short answer for that. So yeah, so if you haven't tried Eskwai, just try it out, and all these things you can just try it out and ask Kwame and get a sense of it. Yeah. All right. Thanks
It's
everyone.
all about prompt engineering and asking it
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah, exactly. The quality of your question really informs the quality of the answer that you get. So yeah, just try it out. Okay, great. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.